What? What? Seriously, what? What was what? I knew that week 6 was going to be a scary Saturday. I told everyone this week it was going to be a scary Saturday. You can't go afford to be taking your girlfriend out to the pumpkin patch. You can't be affording yourself to be doing chores around the house like Tom Sawyer. You can't afford to go on the play an 18 round of golf. You can't. You can't. It's just impossible. That was not the game. That was not the one that I thought we were going to see, the upset of all upsets. That was not the game that I thought was going to be the one that we would be leading off the show. But that is not the game that I figured was going to be the talk of college football after what we saw last week with Alabama being back. But no, Diego Pavia and company, the Commodores, 40-35 against the Crimson Tide. Welcome on into the SEC Unfiltered postgame show. I'm Cole Thompson, riding solo this week, but real quickly, make sure that you go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the ring notification down below, because we're talking everything about the SEC, including the upset of all upsets in this sport. Make sure that you also download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow us on the socials, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at SEC Unfiltered. Make sure if you want to keep the back and forth banner with me alive, it's at Mr. Cole Thompson. And check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. This postgame show is brought to you by our friends over at GameTime. Download the GameTime app and use the promo code SECU for $20 off your first purchase. Vanderbilt fans, I'm telling you, you're going to want to continue to sell out First Bank Stadium. Alabama, I have no idea why people are going to be buying tickets, but right now you got to be buying tickets if you want to go to a concert, if you want to go to a comedy show, if you want to go to any sporting event around your vicinity, wherever you may reside as a Commodore or Crimson Tide fan. Make sure that you download the Game Time app and use the promo code SECU for $20 off at first purchase. Vanderbilt 40, Alabama 35. Listen, Mizzou fans, start rejoicing. The loss to Texas A&M is kind of the light at the end of the tunnel. Things are turning the corner for you. If you're a South Carolina fan, start getting a little nervous because things are not looking as promising. And if you're an Alabama fan, I genuinely don't know what to begin with. I don't. Here's what I will say. Diego Pavia is no longer going to be able to be the quarterback at Thompson Tech Red Wolves because I don't have the NIL funds to afford him after the performance that he put on today. And I'm not going to be able to afford anybody from Clark Lee's roster. It's just not possible. It isn't. So unfortunately for Thompson Tech, we are closing the NIL doors to those who are going to now have to lose that scholarship. But it's okay. We will find players from Alabama who now we're going to have to weed out the week and see who we actually want. But still, Vanderbilt, coming off of a bye week, had a moment to get right. Let's just go back 2 weeks ago. Double overtime against a top 10 Mizzou squad, against a squad in their backyard, where Diego Pavia is delivering the fight. The explosive plays down the field are starting to capitalize. The moment feels like everything is leaning in favor of the Doors. And they already got a top 25 worthy win against Virginia Tech. And 2 weeks before, they had played awful, but still found a way to come back before their defense allowed a late score to Georgia State. They had momentum. There's a legit scenario where Clark Lee in this year, if things go his way, is currently sitting with Indiana of all other teams at 6-0 and college football playoff eligible. That's what we're dealing with at this point. But no, far from it. Instead, now we're seeing this team come back home in a stadium that still is under construction, is still far from being complete, with what is a sold-out crowd and a lot of Alabama people that decided to make the trip up to Nashville because they figured, hey, we're going to go party out in Broadway. We're going to go have a moment where we'll just have fun on the town, and maybe we'll catch the first quarter of the Bama game just for, likelihood. Just for funsies. They stay longer, and I can tell you what, they're finding the nearest watering hole and getting as quickly drunk as possible because that is the only way that you can compromise a loss to Vanderbilt. 23 consecutive losses for the Commodores against the Alabama Crimson Tide. The first time in program history that they pulled off an upset against the number one team in the country. And let me just make this clear. The number one team in the country for the first half against Georgia looked like they were just opening up the next page of the chapter. That says a lot about the history of your program. Listen, Going into this season, we all knew that Clark Lee was going to have to face a little bit of trepidation, and more so, definitely a lot more scrutiny. Guy was in his 4th year. Things didn't really turn the corner after a promising sophomore surge, and things were trending down. Sorry about that. I got to have my phone turned on vibrate because of literally everyone is just texting me with their fond farewells on Alabama winning the national championship. Not the point. He had to make some changes. So what does he do? He goes back and he calls the defensive plays. He goes back and takes over the defensive consistencies. He goes back and delivers what was his bread and butter, what made him the ultimate hire for Vanderbilt when he was at Notre Dame. And in today's game, the defense delivered. The defense did more than deliver. They stepped up and they kicked ass against Jalen Milroe, against Ryan Williams, against the ground game. They forced interceptions, and they set the tone early. For those of you that watch my videos every week asking about the questions, I said that can Vanderbilt set the tone early? I didn't think that they were going to win this game. I can tell you right now, nobody thought they were going to win this game. You will listen to every podcast in America this week, including this one, and everyone will say, we didn't even do a preview for it because we didn't think it was worthy of talking about. Alabama coming off a win. The rat poison, Nick Saban's aura still is around that building. It ain't going to change anytime soon. Nah, far from it. Oh, but the rat poison was alive and well. Very, very alive and well. They set the tone with the early score. Big time run from Cedric Alexander. Pass after pass from Diego Pavia to AJ Newberry to Quincy Skinner. Cedric, 7 yards out. Then Jalen Milroe, little too high of a pass, right into the breadbasket. Now you're down 13-0. Now you're losing a game that probably shouldn't have happened. Now you have to find a way to come back, and Vanderbilt's not letting it off the table. You make it 13-7. Okay, Diego Pavia is going to answer. Quick strike to Cole Spencer for a 12-yard gain. Then immediately after a face mask call, you get another Cedric Alexander run for a 1-yard score. Let's just continue the pile up because it's 23-7 after you get a field goal from 48 yards out from Brock Taylor. 51 yards out, my apologies. Alabama responds. Defense starts to get a couple of big-time plays. Jam Miller finds his way in for 3 touchdowns. They come out of the break. Alabama starting to look like more Alabama. Jalen Milroe, 14-yard score. Vanderbilt punts. Alabama punts. Now comes Diego Pavia. The Pavia that I believed was always underrated. 38-yard touchdown to Junior Sherrill. But here comes Alabama. More importantly, here comes a 17-year-old named Ryan Williams that counts in for a 58-yard touchdown pass and finds his way into the end zone. Did you know he was 17 years old? I think you should, because basically that's the new. Did you hear about the likes of crap? Guys, we're gonna have to end this stream really fast. I'll be able to call you. I'll be right back on here in a minute. Just don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a little bit.